and it's made all the difference. And we've exploded in the last 10, 12, 15 years organizationally. We help 500 or 600 families a year.
Hi, my name is Minesh Baxi, and I'm really excited. I'm the author of the book, Stop Hiring Losers. And one of the person who does not hire losers is Mr. Dayton Schrader from San Antonio. Dayton, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Minesh. It's great to see you. It's great to hear your voice. Thank you very much for inviting me to join you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity as well. And you and I have known each other for close to 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen you grow like exponentially in your personal, professional success, finances, and everything. And you're a great role model for anybody who's going to be watching, listening to this information. So before we start about actual professional tips and techniques, let me ask you, what are some of the things that you're really proud of having accomplished? Because you've accomplished a lot in the last 2+ decades.
Well, we've been very blessed. I'm a real estate broker in San Antonio, Texas, and this is my 38th year in the business. And I met Minesh through a company that we share a part of called The Core as coaches and trainers. And Minesh has always been introduced to us as the #1 expert on helping us with team culture, building our team, hiring the right people. And I met Minesh at the very first summit event that we went to over 20 years ago. And so it's been a great run. We've known each other for quite some time. You've been very helpful and instrumental in helping build my business and my team and the culture in my office. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And when the first time, it's so funny you hold that book up. I remember the first time you gave me a copy of it, and I was really crushed because I thought, wow, you wrote this book just for me. Stop Hiring Losers, because I'd made every mistake in the world along the way, and the wrong person, the wrong seat on the bus, all those kinds of metaphors, wrong compensation plan, hiring somebody because I really liked them and I thought they had a great personality and I thought we'd be a perfect fit because we were so alike, and that was a bad mistake. Not asking the right questions, not being more discerning, waiting too late to hire somebody and being in a hurry and taking the first person that could walk through the door. So I've made every one of those mistakes along the way early in my career, and until I met Minesh, and I still either didn't listen to him or didn't take his advice and made some mistakes, and he'd kind of give me that look and think, well, you didn't tell me I told you so, but he just kind of gives me that disapproving, you didn't use a coaster look. And I know I'm going to stick to my discipline, have Minesh test my people, make sure I consult with him first, and it's made all the difference. And we've exploded in the last 10, 12, 15 years organizationally. We help 500 or 600 families a year buy and sell houses in San Antonio. I have a 22, 23 person team, great chemistry, really aligned. We may have our little brother sister dust ups every once in a while, but overall we operate really well. I'm very blessed. It's been a great run, and a lot of that comes from the core and the coaching that I've received, and then the other people that I've been introduced to through the core. And Minesh has been a big part of that, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Dayton. And I know when we met, you were an aspiring, becoming a big real estate agent and a broker, obviously. And then suddenly the transformation took place, right? The transformation went from being a solopreneur, somebody who's on the left side of the quadrant, that's those people who understand the cash flow quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, to somebody who actually owns a business, and you've been aggressive in somebody who puts structures, systems in place. So even when there have been challenges in your life, you've been able to overcome them because you had a business which was running quite often without you, and you've been great at really putting together your financial plan in place as well. So you've been able to secure, unlike the most real estate agents who have practically no savings in their investments and IRAs and etc. So before we talk about the specifics of how you actually grew your business, tell me a little bit about the challenges you have faced, because most people, when they listen to somebody like you, they're like, oh, Dayton had all the breaks in life. Everybody running to give him deals, and people were just looking to work with him. That's not true. So I would love to have people at least learn a little bit about the challenges you faced.
Well, it started early. I flunked out of college and wasn't quite sure what I was going to do after that. And I fell into the real estate business. One of my high school golf coach actually had me go visit with his wife, who ran a real estate office. And she said, oh, Dayton, you'll love real estate. And I said, really? And she said, oh, yeah, you will. Sign here. And so that was 38 years ago. Coming up on January will be 38 years. And of course this is 1982. So I've got this baby face. I'm 21 years old. All my friends are still in college. Interest rates are 16 or 17%. San Antonio was going to dry up and blow away. And I had nowhere to go, no skill set, no money. I just had to figure it out. And I starved and starved and starved for a long time. And people were nice to me when I was a nobody. And I just held on and hung on long enough and learned and sponged up everything I could, from Zig Ziglar to Tommy Hopkins and all of that. And things got better in San Antonio. I got a little bit older, started figuring things out. The economy approved here in San Antonio. We attracted some bigger companies, and which helped boost our economy and sales and so on. And I got involved in coaching in about 1995 through a company called By Referral Only. And that morphed into where I am now with the core. Rick Ruby was one of the coaches for By Referral Only. And I got my cassette in the mail, and it was Rick Ruby Unplugged. And he said, realtors are broke, and realtors don't pay their taxes, and realtors are maxed out on their credit cards, and realtors don't go home when they say they're going to go home. And I thought, oh my God, this guy's been reading my diary. I wasn't broke anymore, but I'd been in that situation, and I'd been maxed out on credit cards, and I'd been behind to the IRS, and I would not wish that on anybody. And so he really spoke to me. And so I went to Houston, where he was going to be speaking at an event, and he came off stage, and I really sought him out. And I said, I listened to your tape. You were talking to me. It was kind of like being in church when you know that the priest or the pastor just nails you. You think, wow, how did they know I was that bad all week long? And the whole sermon's all about you. And so I went to Rick and I said, man, I loved your deal. You were speaking to me. And he said, well, I'm getting ready to open up my own company. If you're interested, here's the deal. And I said, I'm in. Where do I sign? And I needed a boss. I had gotten the sales part down. I was doing okay there. I had my scripts and dialogues down, but I didn't have the P&L down. I didn't have the personal budget. It wasn't doing the savings like I should have. And I needed that boss to coach me and push me to a higher level. And back then I was doing $12, $15 million a year in sales, which was pretty good by San Antonio standards in the 90s. But this year in 2020, we'll do 150, 160 million in sales. We'll help almost 600 families here in San Antonio. And so I've just, over time, not overnight, but over 20 years, built a really solid team, a really good business here in San Antonio. Been very blessed. And so we've been hitting hard for a long time. So that's kind of how I got here.
Well, and to go from 15 million to 150 million is unbelievable for most people to even listen to you. It's like, wow, how does that happen? And I think that's where it comes down to the three things that you and I will always remember, right? Number one is your mindset, right? Attitude, the way you conduct yourself, right? Number two is behaviors that you have, the activities you do on a regular basis. And the third is the habits that you have brought in, you know what I'm saying? And the behaviors lead to skills as well. So what kind of mindset brought you from 15 million to 150 million?
Well, it was a combination of I'm really competitive, but then there's also that fear factor of I've got nowhere to go. I've got to make this work. And I kind of liked the business. I just wasn't very good at it for the longest time. And then I started figuring it out, and I came to love the business. I love the people. I love the stories. I love how every day is a little bit different. And that's a good and a bad thing. It's good because it's interesting, it's entertaining. It's bad because there's no discipline or focus or structure around that. And what I got through the coaching was that accountability and that structure. I think in our program, we agree that you can get by on personality and flair and all of that. And that's good for 2 or 3 or 4 sales a month. There's a lot of people we know like that are just big personalities, very attractive, but they run around with their hair on fire. They live on sticky notes and that sort of thing. And that's okay, and you can do that. But to get to the next level, you've got to have systems and structure. You've got to have checklists. You've got to have a lot of structure around your practice. And then get to the next level, you've got to have leverage. Your leverage comes from your team, and leverage comes from your referral partners. And that's not for everybody. There's a lot of people that say, oh, I want to be a $50 million agent or a $100 million agent. That sounds good until you tell them that, well, that's a 10-person team, that's a payroll, that's responsibility, that's fixed overhead, that's rent. Oh, no, I don't want all that. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. That was not what I dreamed of. I mean, I had some some kind of BHAG aspirational things. Well, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that, but it's taken me 20 plus years to build this to where it is now. I was not determined to have a 22 person team and do 150 million. It's just grown over time, but we were able to put the building blocks in place. And then the competitive part of me, right or wrong, getting on the wrong hamster wheel for the wrong reason. I've certainly been guilty of that, but that's fueled that passion and that desire. And that's where that plus the challenges from the core and the competitiveness of that program makes you just want to be better, makes me want to be better and compete and push myself at a higher level.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because there are a couple of books which I've been reading lately, and I've been really incorporating them, which I think I've already done that. One of them is called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and the other one is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And they both talk about a concept which is very simple, but it's somehow not so easy to continue doing it. So like the concept is 1% improvement a day, right?
Right.
And the compound effect of that 1% is almost 35, 40%, 40 times in a year. And I think somebody who looks at you today, because we are thinking linearly, we are thinking about who we are today, we are thinking of how we do today, we forget that 1% improvement can be a big deal. So in your case, what are some of the areas where you have put in that 1% consistently? Maybe you build some habits that when people listen to you, they're like, yeah, these habits are the ones which are going to help me get to the level, whatever next level for them is.
Well, I think the first one is just deciding this is what I want my practice to look like. This is what my expectations are. And however you get there, whether it's 1 or 2 sales a month or whether it's 20 or 30 sales a month, making that intentional choice is one habit. And then reevaluating that periodically, depending on what your life circumstances are, spousal support, whatever that looks like, and playing your game and not getting caught up playing somebody else's game or chasing the guy down the hall or something like that. And so just picking what you want your business to look like, given your circumstances and your abilities and so on. So I think that's one good discipline. And then the second is just in the execution of that. Now, part of that comes with, and I think I'm probably talking to people that really do want to grow, or they probably wouldn't be listening to this kind of podcast. So the next one is that those hires, the people that you surround yourself with, that first hire for staff, that second hire, when to do that, what the job description looks like, what the expectations, the metrics are, the personality. And that's where I think Minesh is so helpful, because that's a whole nother skill set. And there's reasons you can get a degree in HR, you can get a degree in management. That's a whole nother discipline that typically salespeople don't have. We have bad habits of just hiring the first person that walks through the door, or the one that just smiles the most, or whatever that is, and that's the wrong way to hire. And so being really intentional, very methodical and disciplined about who you hire, when you hire, is huge, because too many people make a bad first hire and it doesn't go well. It knocks them off their game. They don't have the training, they don't have the time or the temperament to train somebody, and they say, well, that was a failure. Well, it was not a failure. It's not a bad idea. It was just a wrong hire. And so in that first hire is so critical. And in our coaching students, I tell them all the time, you got to get that right person, because a bad person will wreck everything. If you get the right person, though, you think you died and went to heaven. So having discipline around who and when you hire and what those circumstances are is huge, and not just going off just because, or you got a wild hair or something like that.
Well, I think that's very true. It's easy to forget that once you have a good team, then things become easier for you. But until you have that good team in place, what's happening for you and me is like we are handling not only the issues which are in business in general, but we are also handling team problems simultaneously. And that kind of complicates the process of growing, because we thought the team would be able to help us get to the next level, right? And I think you've done a good job of doing that, which is why you have such a successful team as well.
And it took me a long time to figure that out. But when I hire really good people that know what they're doing, tell them what I'm looking for, and then leave them alone, I look like a genius. But if I hire a bunch of knuckleheads with their hair on fire running around that don't know what they're doing, and then I don't take the time to train them, onboard them, coach them up and all that, then I get the results that I deserve. So again, and it takes a little while to get that critical mass of talent and maturity to deal with clients instead of just hiring somebody. That was one of my big ahas, is surrounding myself with really good people, feeling like I deserved and could afford to hire really good people instead of somebody that could get minimum wage. Instead of trying to find the cheapest person out there, I got to a position where I had enough money and resources that I could hire the best person available instead of the cheapest person available. And that's where I think you just explode. Your life gets better, your balance gets better. You're not afraid to go in the office. You're not afraid of being held hostage by somebody. You're not struggling with that, because that's brutal. It'd be like being in a bad marriage. It's just no fun. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And if you have trouble going in the office, you've got conflict, you're not addressing it, or you're just not comfortable there, that's just a killer. And it's almost as bad as it would be at home. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And you know that the three typical roles that a business person usually has. The number one is to make it rain, make sure that there are enough leads and clients coming in the door. Number two is that you are actually being that person who's managing the business, keeping the vision, keeping the organization aligned to getting the whatever the goals are being set. And the third is to manage the money part of it. You talk about it, you teach to every client that you have, the core students you have, and so on and so forth. Which was the hardest for you? Was it the managing of the people or managing of the money?
Oh,
because you were good in sales, I would assume already, right? So
well, managing the people is the hardest, and there's no doubt. But I mean, for most people, lead generation is where everybody struggles. I've been very blessed that once we kind of got a handle on that, our lead gen is really, really good. The money part, that's easy. You made a profit or you didn't. You got to cut expenses or you got to sell more. That's pretty easy. That's fairly unemotional until you're in a jam. And when you're in a jam, it becomes emotional very quickly. But the hardest part is the people, is being able to fuss at somebody, being able to say, I'm not happy with that, being able to lead by example, to be a servant leader, and then to lead with some authority if you have to. But for a lot of people, myself included, I struggle with the authority part. If I'm not doing everything I say I should, exactly when I say I should, I don't really feel like I can come down on you. And so I've got to elevate my game and make sure I'm making my phone calls. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. Now I've got the high ground a little bit anyway to say you're not delivering. And so that's the hard part. That's always held me back personally, is that avoiding conflict and not doing everything the way I should exactly all the time. And therefore that I feel a little bit like a hypocrite if I start fussing at somebody else when I haven't done my job. And so I've got to be better at my job all the time. And even then I still struggle with write-ups and performance improvement plans and fussing at people and so on and so on. But that's where great leaders get really big results and really get even bigger.
Well, good point that you mentioned. I usually talk about the 3 C's. The first C is show compassion to people. So they know that you care, right? Because if they know that you care, they're going to be willing to listen to you and follow you, number one. Number two is help them develop competence. When you help people develop competence, they suddenly have a respect for themselves and the person who helped them develop that competence. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
And the third one is called challenge. Once they have developed competence to a certain level, the next level is you and I need to challenge those people to say, hey, you know what? You can do more. You can do better. And I think that's one of the reasons why the core succeeds very well. Rick Ruby has done a really good job, is he helps you challenge yourself. He keeps creating that next level for you so that you and I can look at it and say, gosh, I cannot do it, but maybe I can, and maybe I will try. And then when we challenge ourselves based on the support system which is available, then we feel even better about ourselves and we respect the people who challenge us. And as a leader, I think that's what you and I need to do, because unless we challenge the people, and I know I struggle with it, I look for approval from people. So I know that part as well. But if we don't challenge people enough, then we don't grow their game. And guess what? They don't feel that good about themselves. Would you agree with me on that?
I do, and I think part of it is, again, back to hiring better people to begin with. You don't have to fuss nearly as much. I just, from an example for football, you don't have to fuss at Tom Brady. That guy's good and he knows what to do and he does what he's told. Versus a rookie quarterback that thinks he's all that, or a third or fourth stringer or something like that. It's that kind of difference in who you hire and the level of talent that you surround yourself with. You hire a bunch of Tom Brady's to be on your team, you're going to have a high performing team that does really well. If you don't, if you hire a bunch of kids right out of high school that don't have the discipline, don't have the professionalism, don't have the experience, that's what you're going to get. And it's not that big a difference pay wise to go from a so-so person to a really, really good person. We all think everybody's like us. We all think they want to work without a net and make 100 grand or 200 grand or whatever. And that's just not the case. The real world is full of really nice professionals that like to make fair money, but not, oh my God, money. They don't want to take the risk. They want a paycheck on Friday. They don't want to worry about it over the weekend. But if you take care of them, they'll be real pros and work really hard for you 40 plus hours a week. And that's a great setup.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because in my opinion, because I use few different assessments, as you know, in the DISC assessment, I know majority of the people are people, right? So
Right.
the S personality, the steadiness is 35 to 40% of the planet, right? Or at least in the
Yes.
culture that we live in. And guess what? They are looking for steadiness. They're looking for stability, correct?
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned that very well. And number two, in the motivators, the people who are motivated by money, the people who are motivated to perform and get paid on performance, right? And that's a small group of people. Majority of people are people who want to belong to a team. They want to be helping other people, feel good about themselves, come to a regular, stable place. And if you and I can create that program to attract those people, they can really, we can delegate to those people and hence leverage our time as well. So I think you have developed a very good system. So tell me a couple of things you have developed to build that culture, because the culture doesn't build by itself. So what are some of the things you are doing to create that culture around you that keeps these people with you for a long time?
Well, I want to go back to the first point. My system is to outsource that to you and say, this is the job description. This is the person. You tell me what the profile is, and then you test the person to see if they actually exhibit that profile. So my system, finally, after a million scars and mistakes and so on and so on, is to outsource that. Because if I get out of sequence, if they walk and go, oh, I like you, I think I like the way you look, I like the way you talk, I think we're going to get along great, then I made a huge mistake and it became all emotional instead of tactical. So back to the so, and sincerely, and to the culture part of it, we did this exercise based on a book called Traction, which I'm a big fan of. I really enjoyed it. And the exercise essentially to gather your key people in your office or people that trust you and will tell you the truth about yourself. If you're a one-person shop, then you bring in title or lender or your CPA or your best friend, but people that will tell you the truth. And you write down all of these attributes or these values.
Core values.
Yes, your core values. And they could be 30, 40, 50 words. And some of them are pretty much the same. Some of them are a little honesty, integrity. Is there really a difference or not? And so you marry up the words that are pretty close together, and then you start picking them. And however many people in the room start voting, circle your top 5. And then you narrow that list down. You argue about a few of them, and you come up with your major values for your organization. And even if your organization is a one-person shop, you still operate by a set of values, whether it's competitiveness or integrity or customer service or whatever that is. And that's where your spouse or your friend or somebody will check you up on some of that and make sure that you're really honest with yourself about what your real values are and do you really operate according to those values. That's a huge deal. And so now we use that as part of our interview process to say, my senior people that have been with me for a long time have all agreed and we've come together on these are our values. And so, of course, everybody says, well, of course, integrity, that's one of my values too. I say, great. So tell me where integrity tell me where you demonstrated integrity in a situation. So now you can challenge somebody in an interview process. Yeah, they tested out really good. They're confident. Their resume's fine. Their credit was good. Their references were fine. But now tell me about integrity. Tell me where you stayed late. You're competitive. Tell me where you stayed late or where you demonstrated competitiveness and so on and so on. So if you've got really good candidates that you vetted properly, now you get down to the meat of it. Because if you've got values in your organization and you're aligned values wise, that's huge. Because if you don't share values, then there's friction on, well, they left at 5 o'clock and they always leave at 5 o'clock, but I stay till 8. That's a values thing. And right or wrong, and there's going to be friction around that. If they don't dress properly, if they have poor table manners, if they tell inappropriate jokes, if they don't pick up a piece of trash on the floor, those are all values. And that will annoy you if they don't share your values. And so getting that part right first is critical. And then their attributes, their characteristics, and so on. Are they friendly? Are they effervescent? Are they detail oriented? What are the characteristics that job requires? My bookkeeper is very detail oriented. She's not a big personality. I don't need a big personality for a bookkeeper. I need a big personality for sales. The salesperson doesn't have to be detail oriented. They need to be a big personality, no fear of the phone. And so that their attributes or characteristics are next, and then skills are the last one. We can teach skills if you're big enough, if you've got enough bandwidth, onboarding process, and so on. If you're a small shop, skills are hard because it takes time to teach somebody that. And that's why I think you got to hire somebody that already knows what they're doing. That's just so.
Wow.
That's how we get aligned that way.
Well, you've done a great job of sharing a lot of good information. So if somebody is looking for a realtor in San Antonio, tell me a little bit how they can get hold of you.
Oh, I'm pretty easy to find. It's Dayton, Dayton, at the Schrader Group, TheSchrader My direct line is 210-757-9785. 210-757-9785. I'm a broker associate with eXp Realty in San Antonio. It's been my home all my life. Like I said, my 38th year in the business. I love what I do. I've been very blessed, and be more than happy to visit with anybody, questions or anything I can do for you.
Wow. So you're looking for obviously people who can buy or sell a house, looking for that guidance. But in your team, you're also looking for great agents who can be part of your team eventually, directly or indirectly in your company with EXP, so that you can be one of those people who's bringing on quality people to EXP as well as to your team as well. Am I right in saying that?
Well, absolutely. So the best thing about being in sales is have something to sell. And so I'm in an interesting. I can sell houses. I can sell my team. I can sell EXP. I'm also a part owner of a title company, so I can sell Envision Title. And I'm also very heavily invested in the core. I'm not a principal, but I've been involved in the core. It's changed my life. I'll forever be grateful to that coaching program, and so I can sell the core. So if it's raining outside, I've always got something else to sell, and that's the best part of that's the best part about having inventory, even if it's intellectual inventory or abstract. I can help, and I got something to sell every single day. So I love that part of it.
Wow. Dayton, you and I have been close friends for a long time. I remember, when your birthday comes in May, right? So
you haven't changed a bit. You haven't changed in 20 years.
I love, and you are just a good person. I love having people like you around me because you are growing and you are helping. And I think those two attributes are extremely positive of the people I want to hang out with.
No, I appreciate
Dayton, I know you are very busy. Your time is very valuable. Pardon?
It's all part of our culture at the core, the giver's gain, and so that's a big part of how we operate.
Well, it has been such a pleasure. I really thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to kind of just share some of the things. I know your time is so precious, so I know it's all the more valuable that you took time to share your wisdom.
Anything for you, Minesh? Again, folks, he's a great consult on the DISC test, understand and spending not just, okay, here's where they fit, but here's what you do with that. These are the questions you ask. This is how you get something more out of it. And that's great for customers. It's great for interacting with your team and it's certainly great as a screening process for hiring. And then the workplace motivator, that's the icing on the cake. I think that's a big, big deal, and that is not uh,
Talked about.
emphasized enough for where do they, are they altruistic? Are they political? What do they want their environment to look like? What's really motivating them? And again, that's a great challenge question too. Well, it says here that this is who you are. Did they nail you or did they not? And then they can either say, yeah, as a matter of fact, they right between the eyes, that's exactly who I am, or you know what, I don't think they did, but here's why. And so it gives you, again, if you're not in a panic over hiring, if you can be more discerning about it, then that's great information to have. And also, if you're competing with somebody, another company for that talent, most people don't do that. And so they interview once, interview twice, maybe give them a test or something like that. But if you have a little bit of a barrier to entry, hey, you're going to take this test, and then we're going to do this. We've got a process, and they've never been vetted that way or interviewed that way. If they're discerning and they really have skills, they're going to be more curious about you, or they're going to think these guys are too weird. This is not where I want to be, which is fine too. I just
then you don't need them either.
Yeah. If it's not a good fit, I don't need a bad hire. And so stop hiring losers. Like I said, when you handed it to me the first time, I thought, wow, I was really crushed. But I know I know that was with the best heart, and it has been a game changer for me. So I'm forever grateful.
Dayton, you are such a great role model. You have a beautiful family. I met your team members. You just are a great guy. You just are a wonderful person to emulate in the community.
Well,
once again, thanks again for being a friend and somebody who has been willing to share his wisdom.
Anytime. Love to see you in San Antonio anytime, Minesh. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I would love to. I need to come over there because it's been a while since I went there. So thanks again.
Hopefully we'll see you in May, if not before.
Yes, definitely.